All right. Book I chose this week is The Secret World of Walter Anderson. So, uh, the author is Hester Bass. The illustrator is E.B. Lewis. Publisher is Candlewick Press. Its copyright date is 2009. Genre would be bibliographical storybook, illustration book. 48 pages, and the appropriate age is 8 to 12. The summary is it's a biography of Walter Anderson, an American painter from New Orleans. He loved nature and painting so much he lived like a hermit on an island off the coast of on an island off the coast called Horn Island. He lived on Horn Island like a hermit all the time. Loved painting birds. He would go on little excursions. He'd climb a tree to paint a bird nesting. He would go to these extremes to find subjects for his painting. He would stand in waist deep water just to wait for a fish so he could paint it. He was passionate. Whenever he went on his trips, he'd take a metal bucket where he'd carry his supplies like paintbrushes, his paint, and he always took 8 by 11 paper, just like this. He would take 8 by 11 paper, and this was his canvas. He would take it everywhere. He took snacks with him, like raisins and peanut butter, whenever he'd go on these excursions, just little snacks to feed the animals, maybe, get them to come closer so he could paint them. He had a signature hat. He would wear a hat. It was kind of like an Indiana Jones hat. He was just old and dusty and comfortable. My favorite part of the story was he had a room in a cottage in the back of his house where his family lived that he didn't let anybody in. He never let anybody in there. He always kept it locked until he passed away, and his wife finally unlocked it and went in. And he had scenes of nature all over the walls, painted everywhere that no one's ever seen. So all this art that's never been seen by anyone, by this American artist, was all over his walls. It would be quite a beautiful things to see. He lived a reclusive lifestyle, and he lived such a reclusive lifestyle. And when he left that all over his walls, that painting of his art all over his walls, just leaving a little bit of him with his family. I thought that was kind of poetic. And then the illustrations, everything was an oil painting, which I thought it was pretty beautiful. Oil paintings. I can't imagine what it was like for him, E.B. Lewis, the illustrator, to have to paint the life of Walter Anderson, who's a world-renowned artist at this point. It was probably he painted beautiful pictures of the Gulf Coast and pictures of Walter Anderson with animals, like in a situation where he'd be painting them. They were all oil paintings, just like Walter Anderson used to use. So I didn't know before this. I did not know who Walter Anderson was. So it was a good read. It was cool to find. He's actually quite an amazing person. I wasn't able to get my hands on the hardcover, but I was able to get it on my Kindle, and I am able to find a read along on YouTube. So I was able to do that with some sound effects. It was kind of an interesting read. I think this book would be perfect when you want to delve deeply into like an art project in class. If you're not just focusing solely on whatever you're reading, if you want to delve into art, this would be a perfect biography for it. It's for children. So you're doing it. Stay back, Petey. You're doing. Sorry. It'd be perfect when you want to delve deeply into an art project. When you want to keep a broad curriculum. So you're reading this book while also studying art. It would be perfect. It would be a good way for kids to learn not to judge a book by its cover, which is kind of a double entendre here, which is funny, but. He lives like a hermit. Sometimes he looks like a homeless man. He lives off the coast. He eats things he finds on the beach. He looks homeless, but he's really an amazing man who's had an amazing life. And these kids will learn. Maybe even some of the kids who think they're not quite the same as everybody else will learn that it's okay. You can't judge them by judge a book by its cover. This man's one of the most interesting men around. Walter, he knew people thought it was weird. He knew people thought he was strange, but he chose to ignore that to pursue his own happiness. All right, so he chose his happiness over the thoughts of others, which is a great message right there for kids. So, hold on a second. So I think that's the message. That's the message. Sorry, I thought I had a second one. That's the message: to not judge a book by its cover. Do not judge people by what they look like. You don't know what's inside. I think this book could really speak to people, to little kids, about something like that. And then a project I found, because Walter was really into art, I found a little graphic organizer that's just a main idea with the details. All right, so you can just make sure the kids are paying attention. Like I said, I think this is more of an art project kind of read anyway, so this wouldn't be the most important part, but here it is right here, a little art project. You got the main idea with the leaf, because Walter was so into nature. Thank you. I hope this is all right. I will try to get the book next week. Have a good week.